Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new series on this channel. This is First Impressions, where I give my first impressions on a whole bunch of stuff. Today, as everybody in the entire world knows, Speak Now Taylor's version came out. Big news, obviously. I don't think I even need to go over the background of this album, it's so big. But I thought I would give my first impressions on this album. I've actually never listened to the original album. Because I have never been that much of a Taylor Swift fan. I had a brief stint where I was a avid Taylor Swift hater, but now I am a Taylor Swift opportunist. Some of her songs are good and some of her songs are really bad. So, we're gonna go over the songs today, including the original recorded versions. What I've done is I've listened to each one once, and I have written down, in my personal opinion, on each one in a couple notes. And I'm going to talk about my first impressions for each of the songs. Let's get started. The first track on this album is Mine. For the original version, I said I would describe the song as bouncy. It has a certain poppiness, but it's not over poppy. The country twang from Taylor's earlier work is certainly still there. It's just something I would listen to on a road trip, and that's not a bad thing. I didn't particularly care for the bridge section, but the rest of the song was a good time to listen to. I gave the original recording a B+. The Taylor's version, I said, from what I could tell, nothing was strikingly different to the original, but the lead electric guitar part is considerably better. However, I would have liked to heard it a little bit more in the mix. Taylor's more mature voice fits the song better than it did in the original, and the bridge has been improved considerably. I gave it a B+ as well, but a better B+ than the original recording. For Sparks Fly, the original recording, I wasn't really into the first 2.5 minutes of it. However, the next minute of the song consisting of a neat guitar lick going into a kind of stabby bridge section, which led into a build-up section, all really made the last chorus hit super hard. However, it's just not that special to me, just kind of another song I might hear on the radio. So I gave it a C+, it wasn't anything special. For the Taylor's version of Sparks Fly, I said this one is a considerable improvement over the original to me. Another example of how much Taylor's control over her voice has just grown over time. I feel like she really embraces the country roots in this song, which contributes to a very, very genuine performance. The production value also leagues better, as we knew it would be. The riff that was played, I believe, in duality by fiddle and guitar just hits a little bit sharper, and the added organ on that stabby bridge made me actually headbang. I headbanged to a Taylor Swift song. Bye, kitty. The bass was also mixed a little bit higher, which made me happy. So I gave it an A-. For Back to December, I said it kind of reminds me of the type of ballad that legendary singers such as Dolores O'Riordan, Gwen Stefani, or 90s female alt-rock singers would sing. Putting it mildly, it's just a great ballad. It starts off simple, but builds with the entire song. The instrumentation is beautifully chosen, with those sweeping strings just echoing the memory she sings about in the song. Any listener has to give this song credit where it is due. I gave this one an A, the first A of the album. For Taylor's version, I said, hate me if you want, but I might actually like the original a little bit more. I know, shocker. The production value may be a little bit better on this one, but I like the strings of the original track a little bit more. And I feel like Taylor's close to teenage voice from the original actually fits the song slightly better, and matches the kind of teenage, young adult angst. I think Taylor's has more control over her voice now, but I feel like the teenage vibe kind of matched the song a little bit better in the original version. It's still not a bad song, I just prefer the original, so I gave it a B+. For the Speak Now original recording, I said that it's just kind of the type of radio-ready music that I feel like Taylor releases as a lot of her hit singles on purpose, in an effort to kind of appeal to everyone and no one at the same time. It's just kind of another pop song, just radio-ready music. It's not like bash your head against a wall pop, but it is just standard pop nevertheless, and it bores me. The lyrics also aren't quite to her usual gold standard in my opinion. For the title tracks, Taylor's version, I said that's just the same song as the original. The voice is matured, and the production is better, but that's to be expected from a 13-year later song, so I just gave it a D+. Dear John is the one I have the most to say about. This was the song I was the most intrigued to listen to, because I've never actually listened to this song. John Mayer is of course a very popular, very skilled guitar player. I love guitar players, but John Mayer is never one that's like stuck with me as being fantastic. He's good, he's great, in fact, but he's never struck me. So I wasn't like rushing to defend him against the evils of Taylor Swift or something. I just kind of thought this song was going to be kind of like a "it was all your fault" song, kind of yelling at him, being mad at him, because I know she was upset with him, and it was a nasty little stint they had there. Especially when I skimmed the lyrics beforehand, and you see the lyric, "Don't you think 19's too young to be messed with?" My initial thoughts, which were admittedly quite incorrect, was that Taylor was going to deflect her own mistake onto John Mayer. However, listening to it for real made me quickly realize this is not a your fault type song like I thought. It's a strikingly mature concession that she made a mistake to date someone twice her age, but it's also John's fault as well to date someone who was literally 1 or 2 years past being a child, and John needs to acknowledge that, is what I got out of it. As someone who, personally, I've always seen Taylor as a little bit of a brat, this actually opened my eyes to her maturity at such a young age, because she wrote this song when she was 19, and it made me feel for her a little bit more. This song is, yeah, it really opened my eyes to all that, to see that she doesn't just blame John, but also acknowledges that she was just a starstruck kid who made some mistakes, and so I think this song is actually quite good. It's not my musical taste, personally, and I might subjectively I might give it somewhere in the C range, but the revelation this song helped me come to boosted up quite a bit, and I'd give it a B. The Taylor's version, however, I feel vastly improves on the original even more. You can really hear the heartache in her voice in this one, and I think this is just a very, very strong piece of her catalog, quite simply. Admittedly, it's not the type of song I'd listen to, as I said before, but I would be a fool not to acknowledge the beauty of this song, especially this re-recorded version, and I gave it an A. Now let's talk about Mean. So, Mean starts off really weird. There's an instrumental bit that feels like it was written for a guitar, but changed to banjo at the last minute. It gives a really weird vibe to the song at first, which kind of made me interested, but that interest was quickly thrown away. This song is clearly a throwback to Taylor's Country Rouge, which isn't a problem, but I really appreciate the fill lines, which came in at about a minute in. The premise, however, is just so corny. This really comes to light in the chorus, which the song just feels like this really bad forced marriage between straight country and straight pop that just doesn't work. It can't decide what it wants to be. This song is having an existential crisis. The bit at the end where the instruments drop out and there's an a cappella section actually made me laugh to myself out loud. It was just so weird and corny. The song is so corny, and it's not the charming type of corny either. It is just flat out corny. I gave it a D. For the Taylor's version, I said it was just as corny. The production value is higher, but it still feels like the exact same song. The vocal section is a little less corny because they have the guitar strikes in there, kind of the chicka-chicka-chickas. But it's not enough to change my mind. Still a D+. The Story of Us, the main problem this song has is that it doesn't quite commit to the punk feeling that it so desperately wants to be. The songwriting is just begging for the performers to go all out punk, but they don't want to do that. The drummer is really trying. The drummer is trying with this weird, like, offbeat rhythm on the hi-hats, but the rest of the band, including Taylor, won't quite commit to that. Taylor's voice is also just not designed for this genre. The bass tone is just off, and there's this really goofy synth thing I can hear in the background that just distracts from the main idea. However, I do like the guitar tone. The guitar tone is quite nice. It's not enough to save the song. It just feels like standard radio-friendly alt-rock that you would hear your mom play on the way to Target or something, and say this is a song I listened to when I was a kid. The ending made me laugh, considering we are still in the middle of the album, and she says, "the end." I just thought that was funny, considering I was listening to a full album. That was probably a bit of an oversight, not on purpose, but it was just a goofy little bit. I gave it a C-. The Taylor's version, it does improve quite a bit. The guitar is ready to commit to that punky feel and grit and goes further, which made me raise my eyebrows when I first heard it. I was, okay, that was nice. However, Taylor's voice just cannot commit to the punk style. I just want to also say that it's okay that she can't do punk. I'm not dismissing her abilities in any way. There's not one singer on this planet who can sing every single genre, and Taylor and punk just don't mix in this way. This version is still notably less radio friendly than the original, but I'm still not a huge fan. But this version does step a little bit off the punk gas pedal and slips a little bit more comfortably into an alt-rock sort of feel with a touch of country, which I feel like was the right decision, but ultimately still So I gave it a C+. Okay, for the next song, For Never Grow Up. I gave it quite a negative review when I first listened to it, and I know, people like this song a lot. So I want you to listen to my original review, and then listen to the re-recorded view, because when I listened to the re-recorded version, I fell in love with it a lot more. So, for the original recording, I admit that maybe to the target audience, probably people who grew up around this time, especially those younger siblings, and it might hit a little bit more for them, as there's not that there's like that relatability aspect to younger siblings, and it does give me the vibe of like singing as an older sister going off to college, but I didn't think it hits. It doesn't quite hit in the original recording, and I was bored listening to it, and I gave it an F, and I want to take that F back. Because when I listened to the Taylor's version, I couldn't quite place what it is, but this re-recording just hits significantly more to me. It might be that added vocal maturity that we've talked about, but I think the real reason is just, by now, the person Taylor's singing about, her godson, is grown up by now, or at least grown up a little bit more. I think that really makes her just have this great emotional connection to the song this time around. Something in her voice just made me think about my own experience and how I'm going off to college and leaving people behind. The original song, I feel like, appeals more to the younger siblings, and I got more of a this is for the younger siblings type of vibe, but I think the new version somehow it affects the older siblings more, which I am an older sibling, and I feel like it was just so special to me. And I don't know what it was that changed between it. I think it must have been Taylor's just added being godfather to this boy for so long. And it just gave me such a great appreciation for this song. I gave it an A-. I might give it an A if I were to listen to it again. It was just so good how she differentiated on the second version. Okay, moving on to Enchanted, and this is by far the most listened to song on the entire track, according to Spotify. I said it was fine. It's just fine. It's more that kind of radio-ready pop, but maybe a little more emotional than most radio-ready pop. It was a little better than fine, but nothing ear-catching. Taking it less subjectively and seeing it for what it is, I still think it's just okay. Objectively, it's a better song, objectively, than my subjective opinion. And it reminds me vaguely of a Smashing Pumpkins song. I gave it a B-. For the Taylor's version, I didn't detect a large difference. It only production value increased. Not much to say here, B-. For Better Than Revenge, I said this song to me is like if The Story of Us worked a little bit better. It has more of a gritty tone to it, but it is more unapologetically Taylor. And it's not trying to be something it's not, like The Story of Us was. It's Taylor, but with a little more drive and a little more dirt in the guitar and bass. So it still feels like Taylor, but with a twist on it. I would have liked to have had some heavier drum tones, but that's a little bit nitpicky, I'll admit. This song is just a ton of fun. It almost feels like a Foo Fighters cover, if that makes any sense. I approve a lot. I like this song. The hand claps going into the third act of the song were a little bit awkward, but again, that's nitpicky. The drum fill at the 2-minute 45-second mark was quite spicy, and I really liked that. It made me kind of perk up a little bit, you know? This is a song that Taylor wanted to sound like Taylor, not like something else, and it works very well. And it draws me in with that little, like, hard rock, punk, emo sort of twist on it, and I gave this song an A-. For the Taylor's version, I like the drums a lot better. This is what I wanted out of the drums when I was listening to the first one and going, but what if the drums did this? I liked the tone of the drums a lot better on the redo. The whole vibe is just dialed up to 11. The bass is gritty, the guitar is overdriven just a touch more, the drums are retuned to be a little bit more punchy, and Taylor is as good as ever. The lyric redo has drawn up a lot of supporters and opposers because she did change one of the lyrics in her songs because she was accused of, I think it was slut-shaming in that original song, and she did redo it. As for my opinion on that side of the argument, I don't care. I could not care any less. The song still slaps, and I gave it an A. On the original recording of Innocent, I said it was kind of radio-ready, blah blah blah. I could honestly see why it's the least listened to track on the album according to Spotify. It's very safe. It's not trying to be anything. There's no identity here, and so it doesn't appeal to anyone, really. I gave it a C. I gave it the most average grade for the most average song. The Taylor's version, maybe a little better. I like the guitar a little bit more, and the acoustic guitar, not the electric, is definitely improved. I think if I were to listen to these songs separately, I'd give them the same grade. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a C again. Okay, Haunted. For Haunted, the drums really stuck out for me on my first listen. The dramatic strings line going into a snare beat reminds me of someone like on a battlefield, marching to a danger they know they can't beat. But as you listen, the snare beat goes away as you enter the chorus, and you realize it's not Taylor walking into danger, but it's the subject of the song. She's singing about walking away instead. And that's when the chorus really takes you away. That snare kind of warlike drum beat really goes away, which is what put this in my mind, that it had changed, subverted your expectations, and you are now thinking about someone walking away from Taylor rather than Taylor walking to somebody. The chorus, easily the best part of the song. The tom breakdown toward the end, it should be cheesy on paper, like Taylor's singing over the kind of like halftime toms going crazy. It should be cheesy. It should be, but it's not. It fits the song really, really well. The lead guitar coming in about halfway through is just impossibly good. I love it. The song has it all. It has emotion, instrumentals, soul, you name it, it's got it. But what really strikes me about this song has got to be its storytelling. The instruments and lyrics just complement each other so well. They're on the same page. They tell the same story so cohesively. Incredible, incredible, incredible. I gave it an A. Fantastic. The Taylor's version, listen, it was going to take a miracle to improve on this song. It's so difficult to improve a song that was that good. This song, the redo doesn't spice anything up particularly, besides what I already said that applies to the whole album, being that vocal control and maturity, and also the production value. But I'm still very, very impressed. The Taylor proved that she still has the vocal chops that made her famous, with those really strong mids and lows, and purposefully those like squealing highs, that especially in the last chorus, she kind of squeals on those highs, which just convey that emotion, especially at the end. I gave it an A. So Last Kiss, it wasn't anything crazy. I had a little trouble paying attention, but maybe that's the fact that I've been listening to this album for a couple hours now. It was alright. It was alright. I didn't get that usual emotion you usually hear out of Taylor. Her voice wasn't as intriguing. The instrumentation was also a little bit dull. I give it a C-. For her redo, I don't have a ton to say about it. It's just kind of a traditional sad song that just certainly exists. I gave it a C-. Long Live. The song starts off a lot like Last Kiss did, and I thought it might be rather boring at first, like Last Kiss, as I thought. However, this one proved to be quite a bit more intriguing, as it jumped to a very loud and proud chorus. The verses remained kind of subdued, but rather the choruses made sure to put some power into the song. It's not Taylor's best, by any means, but it's still a decent showing of her ability, so I gave it a B-. The Taylor's version, I like the production of the song a lot more. Everything's just a lot crisper, everything pops just a little bit more, and it makes it just a little bit more of an enjoyable listen. Everything is just clean, sharp, and well produced. B+. For the original recording of Hours, this is starting to get into the deluxe edition of the album, by the way. I see why this was not on the original release, and on the deluxe instead. It sounds like if the music was from a commercial or an instructional video. It had, like that cheesy commercial, very much manufactured corporate sort of music. I could totally see people dancing in a park while reading a list of side effects in a medicine commercial as Taylor sings over this. I would totally edit people doing a commercial with Taylor Swift music in the background, but that would get me copyrighted, so just imagine it in your head. Ultimately, it's just kind of a silly song with not much value at the end of the day. I gave it a D. The Taylor version, I actually like quite a bit better. This version has a bit more grit than the original. The piano and guitar have been redone in a very different tone. And that weird kind of ukulele, I think it was ukulele, was removed so that the song kind of feels like it's taking itself a little bit more seriously. And the fact that it took itself more seriously made me give it a B+. I liked it. The original recording of Superman, it was kind of fun. It was fun. It didn't bring anything special to the table, but it made me kind of do a little bit of a nod my head a little bit. The acoustic instruments mixed in were just so fun. It was a B. I gave it a B. For the Taylor's version, I don't know what it was, but the pacing of it just felt a lot better. It feels like it was paced at a very interesting rate. It hits with punch more early, rather than kind of building after that punch. It punches a little bit earlier, and acknowledges the headbanging potential of this song. That's a new one. And it cranked that aspect up quite a bit. It's fun, enjoyable, and even if it's not quite my style, it's getting close to my style, and I gave it an A-. So now we're getting into the songs that are brand new. The songs that are from the vault, which I believe means they were written earlier, but she decided to bring them out and re-record them because they just weren't good enough or didn't get done in time for the original. The first of these would be Electric Touch, featuring Fall Out Boy. I saw the Fall Out Boy feature, and I didn't quite know what to expect. I didn't expect, like, of all bands, I didn't expect Fall Out Boy to be featured on a Taylor record. I've always been a Fall Out Boy avoider. I've never liked them very much. I continue to be an avoider after this. I want to hear Taylor sing this one as a solo, personally. I didn't hear any of Fall Out Boy's musical influence at all, which is for the best. I figured Taylor probably wrote this song and just wanted Fall Out Boy to collab on it for some easy listens from Fall Out Boy fans. I don't think that Fall Out Boy had any hand in writing this at all. I didn't catch that. I think this song would just be served better with a different vocalist that wasn't not Fall Out Boy. I don't think that they have very good chemistry together. I don't think they complement each other's voices, and I found myself wanting Taylor to come back whenever the other guy started singing. I'm not even going to look up his name because I just didn't care so much. Ultimately, it could have been great, but it was marred by Fall Out Boy's appearance. I give it a D+. When Emma Falls in Love, this was there were some very interesting chord substitutions, which kept my interest piqued without becoming the point of the song. A lot of times when there's a weird chord, it'll like become like this great thing about this song is, oh, it has weird chords, which I love weird chords. They're great. But oftentimes that just becomes the point of the song, and here it doesn't. There are some chord substitutions you don't expect, but they don't become the point of the song. It was just a little twist on like the tried and true kind of Let It Be progression, you know, that and it just added a couple twists on that, which subverted expectations and added to an otherwise what would be a cliche song. I really liked the simile of if Cleopatra grew up in a small town. I think that was just a really fun simile, which made me smile when I heard it. It's right on that verge of like corny country pop rock, but it doesn't quite cross that line, so it's still decent. An enjoyable listen, a little bit radio friendly. It was kind of that every genre, listen to us on the radio type of thing. I liked the return to the piano and the overlying bass line at the end. It was kind of the piano doing that original intro progression, but with the bass kind of doing some fun stuff up high on the fretboard over that. It was kind of fun. I gave it a B. I Can See You Now. This is a song that had some spice to it. It breaks free of the mold in the rest of the album. A funky guitar line combined with the low, cool, and collected vocal part made me bob my head, and it led into a great chord progression which went right into the chorus. It shows that Taylor is very capable, bordering on that funk or maybe jam music, while still staying Taylor, which is what I like about this whole album. A lot of songs border on other genres, but don't go so far that they aren't Taylor, and she loses her core audience. She makes sure that she retains that core audience while going and exploring other genres and putting her feet in the waters of funk and other genres. I will say for a lot of songs on this album, she doesn't venture enough, and it does become radio-ready, radio-friendly type music. But here, I think it works really well, and it adds some funky spice to this album. I gave it an A-. Castle's Crumbling, it starts off very subdued, even compared to the other subdued tracks on this album. I thought it was an odd choice at first, until it really started building up about a minute in. Hayley Williams, literally the perfect choice to duet with, of course, the singer of Paramore. These are two very legendary female singers of the 2000s, and it's very inspiring to see how they work together, as they are both artists who started out as young teens. I think they were both 14 when they started their music careers, and they had to navigate the industry pretty much on their own. They duet super nicely together. Not a daily listener for me, but a very solid composition, which I respect. A-. Foolish One, I'm always impressed by Taylor's ability to go between her head voice and her chest voice so cleanly, and I think she shows that off pretty well here. Her vocal performance is very solid, however the song as a whole, bit repetitive, not super unique. C+. Ending that off with Timeless, the 22nd track. This is a very, very cute song. I liked it. I've never been a huge fan of lyrics compared to instrumentals, but I love the story. It's a really cool little piece of writing. Taylor always proves that she can write super duper well, and still has that flair for writing that's impressed critics and listeners alike ever since she started. This is a song I normally wouldn't care about, but I just love the story that it tells. It's very much a very linear story, very simple, but it's just very cute, and I like it. It's a true beauty, great way to cap off the album, and it actually adds off the album with a little bit of a hidden message, that this album is 13 years old now. And I feel like ending with Timeless kind of said that the album has ended, but hasn't it been timeless? It still holds up today, and I think that's just a testament to Taylor's ability to write very engaging lyrics, which can relate to a lot of people, but also don't feel generic. They feel very personal, even though they relate to all these people. And that hidden message just impressed me a lot. And this album is still impressive, and Timeless made me think about... I think Timeless does a good job making you think about the album as a whole, not just as that song, but how that song caps off the full album. And I think that does a really good job of that. So I gave that song a B+. For the overall grades, I went into a little GPA calculator, and I calculated out what grade I would average these songs out to be. For the original album, not the Taylor's version, I averaged out to be a C+, which I think is fair. I think there are some great songs, but a lot of it ends up being radio ready. For the re-recording, I feel like Taylor has pretty much gotten rid of most of that radio ready feel, and taken it to a more unique and very personal level. I averaged it out to be a B, which I feel like is a very fair argument, and I would give this album a B, in fact. I feel like there are some very strong candidates on this list for some of Taylor's best work, and I feel like there's no really bad songs on the album, except for probably Mean. Other than Mean, there's no bad songs on the album. Everything is mediocre at worst, with some very good hits in there. And those hits, I think, bring it up to a B, what would normally be a C++ album. And so I give this album a B. As far as the best song, I think the best song is Haunted. That's my personal favorite on this whole album. It's so fun. It's so different and gritty, and I loved it. Honorable mentions, Better Than Revenge, liked it a lot. Never Grow Up, the re-recorded version, typically just because of how personal it is to me. Dear John is also a decent honorable mention because it just because it made me realize some things about Taylor. I don't think it's honorable mention based on how good it is, but I think it's honorable mention to me just because it helped me realize that Taylor doesn't quite deserve all the stigma she sometimes gets. And I think it's an important song for people to listen to just to understand that and really soak in the lyrics. Worst song by far, Mean. Mean was corny, did not hit in any way. I think Mean is the only bad song on this album. Electric Touch borders on bad. It's not as bad as Mean, though. Electric Touch is just kind of disappointing. I wouldn't call it bad, though, but Mean is definitely the worst one on this album. And so yeah, that is my full review, or rather my first impressions of the Taylor album. It's been out about I don't know, 12 hours, 15 hours at this point, but that is my first impressions. Keep in mind, first impressions are likely to change. Finn is currently sleeping on my bed. Finn's my cat, by the way. And yeah, I would recommend certain songs on this album to anybody. I would not recommend the entire thing to anybody, but I think there are some great songs that I would recommend. And so that is my full review of Speak Now. Thanks for watching.